Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Ito po ang inyong katipunan si Butch Valdes. At kasama ko dito ang ating pampaganda ng aming screen, si Butch Valdes. Ah, Siya po ang aking mga panganay. And every Sunday, at least for the past few weekends now, kami po ay minarapat namin i-discuss ang mga pangyayari dito po sa Estados Unidos dahil sa amin pong palagay ay napaka-importante po para sa atin na mga, well, hindi lang sa Pilipinas pero sa buong mundo. No? Kasi po ang katulad ng madalas namin sinasabi, kung ano pong mangyayari sa bansang Amerika, may epekto sa ating pamamalakad at ating kinabukasan. No? Uh, kung saan papunta ang ekonomiya ng mundo o saan papunta ang politika ng mundo. This is why we have to take it up. And not only, well, of course, marami tayong mga kababayan na nakatira ngayon sa Amerika at doon na sila nabubuhay at ano na ng mga pamilya. After all, ang Amerika is really a country that is the focal point of many different races. No? And that is yung immigration po sa Amerika ay it's historical and alam na po natin kung bakit dahil itong kanilang sistema noon ay umubra. Pero because of this, probably that's why we have a tendency, or God made it this way. We have the tendency to look at America as maybe the microcosm of what's happening in the whole world. At represented po lahat ng mga races and lahat ng mga peoples all over the world dito sa Amerika. Sila po ang complete in terms of a combination of different people. So in a philosophical sense, microcosm talaga ang bansang Amerika. At pag nakikita natin, I've always said the most decadent country in the world right now is the United States of America. Ay ganyan na rin po ang nangyayari sa buong mundo. No? Pero it's now, if we look at the concentration of what is happening around the world, dito po sa Amerika. And sa larangan po ng ekonomiya, it is the world's largest economy, bigger than China. Although China is the second largest economy now because of its people and because it is geared towards production, no? Kaya lumaki-laki ang kanilang ekonomiya. But the biggest consumer, the biggest consumer nation in the whole world is still the United States. At pag tumigil ang kanilang pag-aangkat, if they stop the importation of goods from around the world, it will affect us. It affects the whole world. So it is to the interest of all producer nations that are exporting to the United States that the United States continues to import goods coming from the rest of the world. Ganyan na rin po ang Europe, but as one nation, that's why everything that happening in the United States is important for us, and we must know, although we cannot participate in their politics, we must at least know what's going on. At ngayong gabi, ganyan din po ang ating i-discuss, no? Tungkol dito sa mga pangyayari sa Amerika. Yesterday, dito po sa isang programa natin, itong Talakayan Bayan, magkaroon tayo ng mga ibang guests mula sa ibang bansa, sa bansang Amerika, and yung isa from, I think, from Peter Andernak, I think is from Sweden, no? Or Germany, somewhere. And Ang pinag-usapan po natin yung plandemic, no? Hindi pandemic, plandemic. It is a play of the word pandemic. Why? Because sa kanila pong palagay, ito po yung mga eksperto, hindi lang ito sa mga mamamayang Pilipino, sa kanila pong palagay ay ito pong nangyari na sa atin tungkol sa COVID-19 at nangyari sa buong mundo, ay planado. That's why they call it plandemic. Sino nagplano nito? Ang lumabas yung mga ibang pangalan, yung mga Rockefeller, yung mga Bill Gates, yung mga Fauci, at iba-iba pang mga grupo na may plano talagang gawin ito sa buong mundo. Ang direksyon ng lahat ng pangyayari ay nakatutok sa bansang Amerika. Pero hindi ibig sabihin hindi tayo tatamaan dahil tinatamaan din po tayo ng mga COVID issues, no? Pero palaging ang katulad po ng bansang Pilipinas, we are always looking at WHO and the CDC in America to give us guidance as to how to react here. Ang pong si Duque, wala pong ginawa yan kundi makinig sa CDC tsaka sa WHO at yun ang gagayahin niyang gagamitin nila dito. It's not the best way, especially kung yung mga nangunguna dito sa WHO tsaka CDC ay kasama sa paggagawa ng katiwalian sa buong mundo. If they are party to the deception that is happening right now around the world, and you've got people like Duque here and the rest of the officers of government that are just inclined to follow what America is doing with regard to COVID. It is dangerous as it is already dangerous last year. So tonight we will be discussing this, and Itos has.
I just wanted to add
Yes.
Also. I think yung offshoot po ng pag-guess kagabi ng mga personalities and organizers. Kasi po, the day before or 2 days before, may malaking live event na they stream. Organized and call themselves Philippine Doctors for Early Treatment and Prophylaxis. Ibig sabihin, you don't have to be hospitalized, you don't have to have a vaccine. Now, there's a group of very, very doctors, very experienced doctors and very famous doctors that come together and said they are calling on the president to lift the lockdown. Now, it was streamed live on Facebook, and a lot of people were attending. Namumulat na po ang isipan at passion ng a lot of Filipinos that this pandemic might not be as serious or this COVID can be beaten, not just by vaccines but by early treatment. And this group of doctors were saying exactly that. That there is a way to treat. Maski na may COVID ka, huwag kayo matakot because the numbers are in your favor. 99% survival rate basta matreat na maaga. Now this group, nag-live stream po sa Facebook, tinanggal ng Facebook, ibanalik ulit nila kasi alam mo naman yung ating mga kaibigan sa Facebook, they're very careful about what information is spread on their platform. Kaya po, I think binan muna nila yung live stream na yon. But then the organizers, some of which guested last night on Katipunan channel, and some of them might be listening tonight, uploaded it again. So I think it's important for people to look for that. I think it's PH Doctors for Early Treatment is the Facebook group. I think you can watch the press con and the live event and participate because a lot of these questions, sabi ng mga doktor na yun, who are good doctors and very experts in their field, they do not believe that lockdowns are necessary. And this is part of around the world, marami na pong bansa, marami na pong tao nagagalit because yung buhay po nila is being involuntarily suspended by this unreasonable lockdown. So that's where they guessed last night, and then the discussion went into ano ba tong pandemic na to? Is it on purpose? Is it not? So that was the discussion. I think it's still on our channel. No?
Yes.
Hindi pa yata
You
naman.
can look at our archives,
Yes.
no, sa Talakayan Bayan. Yesterday, September 19, 2020, we had quite a good discussion last night on this. No?
Yun yung mga organizers ng grupong yan. So but now we have a little news.
Pero itong sinasabi ni, tapos gusto ko lang din dagdagan dahil baka makalimutan natin. Ang mga doktor po, I don't know how many they are, but they're quite a big group of doctors now that have gotten themselves together and want the president and the IATF to listen to them and what they're saying. They were saying basically that lockdowns can be more harmful than do good. No? The same thing with masks.
Yes.
No? Some of these doctors are saying that the masks can also be more harmful than the good because yung pong mask na yan, sinasabi nila, ay nagpapahirap sa paghihinga. It curtails breathing. Not only that, yung hinihinga mo daw, no, you are inhaling also your carbon dioxide. Yung dapat nang lumabas, nandun pa yung iba at ini-inhale mo ulit. And carbon dioxide, you don't inhale. Alam niyo po yun. Actually, poison na po yun sa yung sistema. Pag, when what you exhale, you will start to inhale again. No?
Yes.
Some of these things are very, very important for our people to understand. And napakaganda po if you can go back to them because these are scientists. These are not the run-of-the-mill type of
kung sino-sino lang.
No? Much more competent in terms of understanding vaccines and diseases and viruses and than Secretary Duque. Really,
Correct.
wala pong ang isa, biro mo ha, ito na yung mga mismong eksperto, tsaka not only, they have extensive experience, no, in the use of viruses, chemicals, and vaccines, and alam na yung mga protocols, at alam na nila yung how a vaccine or how a virus, no, can be injected, no, but modified in such a way that it's going to do more harm than good in your body. And it can be
genetically engineered. Yes.
No? Ito po yung in-explain ng tao na si Peter Andernack. No? Now, what is happening now, not just here in the Philippines, it's around the world.
Yes.
You know? More and more of the human population are starting to question and get awakened as to the real situation with regard to the COVID. They're starting to understand now, by a little bit more research, where the disease started, how it got to Wuhan, and how Wuhan
spread.
From Wuhan, how it spread to the rest of the world. No? We thought, ang narinig ko, yung Wuhan, hindi nanggaling nga doon ang disease. Pero dahil ginawa yung disease sa mga laboratorio sa labas ng China, no? dito pa lang sa labas ng China, nangyayari na yung sakit. Pag naglabas tapos ng China sa Wuhan, ginawa ng mga media to make it look like the original source of the virus was China. Kaya nakakatakot po dahil napaka-powerful na mga nangliling lang sa katauhan.
This is what some of them were saying last
Right.
night. Diba? So, again, we encourage everybody to do their own research. Marami pong reports and marami pong studies, marami on YouTube now. Kasi po, if we rely on mainstream media, again po, parati natin sinasabi, wala po kayong matututunan dyan po. You will not learn more about the virus. You will only learn more of what WHO and DOH wants you to, how they want you to behave and how they want you to think. So as human beings, we have to think for ourselves. So we have to do our own research, and not just people, Chairman. A lot of doctors around the world are also going against and have been going against the WHO and saying, mali kayo. That's not right. India, right? India, the whole department sa India went against WHO.
Italy also.
Yes. And alam po natin, we've been saying it, Trump has been against the CDC. He has already withdrawn funding from the WHO. And he was the US was the biggest funder of the WHO. And he withdrew formally out. Sabi niya, don't believe you guys.
Ang WHO po nasa Amerika. No? And the principal funder, and yet the President of the United States has already cast doubt on their intention and on their methods. And because of this, the United States withdrew funding and basically withdrew its
support,
belief in what the WHO was doing. Endorsement.
Yes.
Because they probably understand that there is something going on that's wrong. Now, President Trump is the first president that actually went against the WHO and its own CDC, its own
Center for Disease Control,
si Fauci.
Yes.
Kinokontra niya ang sinasabi niya, ganito, ito yung probably mas mahusay na. Kasi sinasabihan din siya ng maraming doktor.
Yes.
No? And yet, tingnan nyo, sa buong mundo, no, wala pang presidente that is going against the WHO. Ang presidente po natin, makikinig lang kay Duque. Kasi Duque nagdadasal sa WHO tsaka sa CDC. Kung dito ang kasamaan ng nangyayari, patay na tayo. Kasi doon nakatutok si Duque. No? Di natin alam kung bakit, kung pera ba yan o katangahan lang talaga. Kasi ang alam natin, ang sinasabi ng WHO tsaka ni Fauci ng CDC, maghintay kayo, dadating na yung vaccine. Yung vaccine ay didistribute natin sa buong mundo. Maghintay kayo. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Pera. Lahat ng gobyerno bibili nitong vaccine. Anong ehensya ang gagamitin nila pagbili niyan? Department of Health. Hindi ba ang dami na natin alam na katiwalian at pagnanakaw at dishonesty dyan sa Department of Health? Noon pa yan, ito sa Dengvaxia, nandyan na yan. Ito sa PhilHealth, no? Department of Health din yan. Si Duque na naman yan. No? Tapos ang presidente, siyempre, basta I have complete trust in Duque. I hate corruption. Only a whiff. Suspicion pa lang, tanggalin ko na yan. Wag lang si Duque.
Wag lang si Duque. Special si Duque.
That is what's happening. Now, again, since we opened up this topic about President Trump, Itos, no? President Trump is now going to become or running for his re-election on November 4, I think. November 4. At nagkakaroon siya ng mga counter no, dito sa kampanya. Lumalabas itong mga Democrats no, na kalaban niya at itong mga iba na nagsasabi, itong mga Antifa. Yung Antifa is a organization, like a terrorist organization. No? Ang kanilang parang ginagamit sila parang pang-rally. Alam niyo po, tingnan niyo yung mga professional demonstrators sa atin, rallies dito, yung ibagsak si ganito.
Anong tawag niyan? Professional
rallies.
Rally, no? May term na nakita ko sa Facebook.
Ito mga to ay bayaran, no? Pero manggulo, no? Kasi kung may gulo, merong social unrest, yung mga tao, nagsesarado yung mga negosyo, no? At ang naggawa nitong organisasyon na ito ay ang isang tinatawag na George Soros. No? Now, si George Soros po ay isang malaking negosyante na maraming pera na gumagawa ng paraan para magpalit ng mga kasama ng CIA, nagre-regime change yan. Kung meron mga bansa na kalaban sila o kalaban ng bansang Amerika, si George Soros pumapasok at sinisira yung bansang yon, gumagamit ng mga human rights activists at lahat-lahat para matanggal.
CHR, ganon.
Oo, yung Commission on Human Rights. Ito yung kanilang mga galamay. No? Pati na rin mga media, galamay nila yan. Marami pong resources kasi etong si George Soros. Hindi po niya parang pinagkakaila. He never came out to say that is not mine or I am not that and so on and so forth. But everybody knows. Everybody knows it. He's also a #1 drug legalizer. His whole campaign for quite a long time is to legalize drugs. Kaya anyone that is going against drugs, gusto niyang sirain. Ganyan po itong taong to. Now, what is he doing right now in the present campaign of Trump? How is he trying to create the problems of attacking Trump? No? Kasi, by the way, publicly nag-announce na si Soros noon. If there is anything that he will do even before he dies, because he's already 90-something years old. Yung anak niya, nagpapatakbo ngayon. It is to bring down President Trump. Yun ang sinasabi niya. Kasi nga may gusto silang gawin sa buong mundo. Ang kanilang konsepto is one world government. One world government. At sila ang mangingibabaw. At pag sinira mo ang Amerika, sira na rin lahat ng mga bansa. No? Gagarahin mo yung China, gagarahin mo yung Russia, at sisirain mo para sila ang mangingibabaw sa isang gobyerno ng buong mundo. That is yung pong globalization, dyan po nagmumula yung pag-iisip na yan. Okay? Ito po yung si George Soros.
So before we show the video, I had a video also of the COVID updates. You want to or
yes, ito muna COVID muna.
Patapusin muna natin so sa ending before we jump to George Soros. Marami po tayong discussion dyan. But I wanted to show you a news report. Ano yung latest updates na CDC na hindi pinapakita sa atin ng mainstream media. So ito, news on the CDC and development. So ito pong clip is from Liz Wheeler. We've shown her several times here, pero magaling po siya ng mga reports so that we can look at it very simple and then we can do our research after. So Liz Wheeler.
This week, the mainstream media obsessed about whether people wore masks at the Abraham Accord ceremony at the White House, these same media pundits and publications ignored 6 important news stories about COVID-19. Since they refused to report to you the data, the facts, the studies, the statistics, and the truth about COVID-19, we will. Number 1, according to newly released CDC data, which shows numbers through August 29th, predicted excess deaths in our country have moved below the threshold for excess deaths. This is really important because excess deaths is the best way to determine whether COVID-19 is killing people who wouldn't already die or whether people who are dying from COVID would be dying anyway. Hence the words excess deaths, which means more deaths than otherwise expected. According to Stanford biophysics professor Michael Levitt, who won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 2013, and I quote, CDC excess deaths to the 29th of August are 14% below baseline as predicted in July. This is the first time, he says, since March that delay-corrected death data fell below baseline. Excess death in the March to August 20th COVID-19 season may be over. A huge milestone, he says, end quote. Number 2, this isn't just true in the United States either. In the UK, flu and pneumonia deaths have surpassed COVID-19 deaths for months now. According to the Office for National Statistics in the UK, flu and pneumonia have contributed to more weekly deaths than COVID since June. As reported by The Telegraph, and I quote, just 78 people died of coronavirus in the week ending September 4th. The first time the figure has fallen below 100 since lockdown began in March. Just 1% of deaths now mention coronavirus on the death certificate, compared to 12.8%, which mention influenza and pneumonia, making those conditions nearly 13 times more deadly, end quote. In regards to excess deaths in the UK, the overall number of deaths have dropped below the 5-year average for England and Wales too, by nearly 1,500 fewer deaths the past few weeks compared to past years. Number 3, new data on face masks from Israel shows surprising results, indicating that masks may not be as effective as public health officials claim. Here's why. On June 24th, Israel increased the fine and increased enforcement of their face mask mandate. Since June 24th, COVID-19 cases have risen by 7-fold. Now, testing has also doubled in Israel since June 24th, so adjusted for testing, the rise in cases is probably 3.5-fold. But here's the thing. Deaths from COVID have been rising in Israel too. So it's not just a matter of more testing identifying asymptomatic or mild cases. In fact, if you want to get technical, according to Twitter science researcher Elgato Malo, Israel is seeing 2 deaths per million population per day. So how do you tell if masks are effective in slowing the spread of the virus? You test it against a control group. Gato Malo compares Israel to Lebanon, where masks are not required and people aren't really social distancing. Lebanon is also seeing 2 deaths per day per million population, which is the same rate as Israel. It's hard to argue that masks are helping when the mask group and the non-mask control group are seeing the same outcome. Number 4, what might work better to decrease the fatality of COVID-19 then? According to SciTech Daily, a new drug called AB8 has been found to be, quote, highly effective in preventing and treating COVID-19 in mice and in hamsters. Another drug, dexamethasone, a corticosteroid, has been found to be hugely beneficial in lowering the fatality rate for critically ill patients. For patients on ventilators, the drug reduced mortality by 1/3. Number 5, but our public health officials are so obsessed with COVID-19, other people who shouldn't be dying are dying. According to Professor Carol Sikora, the founding dean and professor of medicine at University of Buckingham Medical School, he's also the ex-director of the World Health Organization Cancer Program, the disruption to routine medical services caused by the government-mandated COVID lockdowns will cost countless lives. Sikora says, and I quote, "I'm often told to stick to cancer, so let me do that. Disruption caused to diagnosis, treatment, and research will cost countless lives. Coronavirus tunnel vision has caused the biggest cancer crisis in my lifetime. It's a disaster. I will continue to raise awareness of that," he says, end quote. Number 6. And yet, Dr. Anthony Fauci wants movie theaters, a staple of regular life here in the United States, to stay closed until a vaccine has been around for over a year. Actress Jennifer Garner asked Fauci during an Instagram Live, "When are we going to be able to sit in a theater and watch our favorite performers up on stage again?" Fauci replied, "I think it's going to be a combination of a vaccine that has been around for almost a year and good public health measures," end quote. Since the mainstream media won't report these updates, these reports, studies, and facts about COVID-19, we will.
And
Summarize mo nga yung sinasabi ni Liz.
according to a new Israel study,
In Israel, no?
yeah,
Yung naging, when Israel became more strict, at they
Mandated.
nag-double pa yung mga fines, no? Na kinakailangan mag-mask yung mga tao. Ang tumaas pa lalo yung mga
infected,
na-infect, no?
COVID.
At saka yung basically yung mga namatay, pero tumaas pa lalo yung cases ng COVID. Yun ang isa sa nasabi.
Yeah, on top of that, sabi niya, sige, kung Israel lang, ano natin makikita kung effective nga yung or hindi? Let's test it against another sample group.
In Lebanon.
In this case, Lebanon. Now, Lebanon is not strict with the masks, on lang social distancing, and basically, everybody can do what they want. Now, yung reported deaths sa Israel and Lebanon are the same.
Pareho. So sabihin, yung isa may mask,
yung isa wala.
yung isa wala, pareho din ang,
Pareho lang.
ang namamatay.
Yeah, and you don't attribute that to COVID. Not everything in those deaths are attributable to COVID. Could be, old age or cancer or other things. The point is, yung mask po, sabi ng Israel, walang clinical study pa ang naglalabas na mask can actually prevent the spread.
Right.
But yet, the WHO...
And it could even be worse.
It could even be worse. And yet, the WHO, and I think that's why walang clinical study, kasi parang lalabas worse. Could be, di ba? Because now you're inhaling carbon dioxide.
Ngayon, yung
diba?
isang sinasabi nila ito, yung sabi yung excess deaths.
Yes, yung new CDC data predicted deaths have moved below the excess deaths. So yung excess deaths po, yung sinasabing deaths that are attributable to COVID, hindi yung expected death rate ng isang bansa. Okay? So yung mga nahawa at may namatay, dapat mag-i-increase yung mga mamatay, the numbers. But the predicted deaths have already gone below.
Gone down.
To the excess deaths, yung talagang normal predicted deaths ng So, ang nag-point out nito, sabi ni Liz Wheeler, is this stands for the Biology Nobel Peace Prize winner in chemistry, who said this should be big news. Kasi bumababa na talaga. And it's actually on its way down. And this should be big news in the mainstream media, pero wala po tayong narinig.
Ang mainstream media naman, sa nasabi, umaakyat.
Umaakyat.
Meron pa silang sinabi dito sa report na yung namamatay sa pneumonia na
in
UK is 13 times higher than mga namamatay sa COVID. No?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, in June. Since June.
Since June.
So since June, yung flu and pneumonia deaths are more than COVID. Now, it's 13 times more than COVID.
Yeah. Can you imagine, kung isang mamamatay na sa COVID, 13 nang namamatay sa pneumonia. Hindi dahil itong mga pneumonia na COVID, they're not related.
Yes.
No? But this is what is happening. And yet, ang pandemic natin, COVID, hindi yung pneumonia. Halos ganyan din ang resulta sa flu. Ang flu ganyan din, halos 13 times. Ang COVID, isa lang ang flu. Pero walang pandemic sa flu. No? Why is there this? No?
Grabe talaga.
Something is really going on. No? And then the whole campaign nakatutok dito sa mga vaccines. No?
Na sinasabi nila baka next year, baka year after.
Yeah.
Hindi pa tayo sure. Sabi nga ni Liz Wheeler, si Fauci daw, sabi niya lahat ng movie theaters daw kailangan nakasara. Maski na lumabas na yung vaccine, dapat 1 year after that, sarado pa rin yung movie theater. Yan ang advice ni Fauci.
Hindi lang movie theaters ang nangyari, pati lahat ng
lahat.
mga negosyo nagsesarado. No?
Imagine, yan ang ano
There's
nila.
something wrong.
Mali.
There's really something wrong. And then, itong mga sinasabi nila tungkol sa vaccine. Yung meron again, kapari sa kagabi, dito sila Andermatt, tsaka sila Mike Mas, nagbigay ng pahayag na itong mga vaccines na ito, matagal na nilang pinag-aaralan kung paano gagawin. Ito ng Rockefeller Foundation na ganyan. Paano nila gagamitin ng genetically modified vaccine. Kasi ang vaccine po, kuha ka ng parang virus, may sakit, i-inject mo in a small dosage sa isang tao, no? Tapos magkakaroon siya ng reaction to it. Tapos since meron na siyang virus dito, pagdating ng COVID virus, lalabanan yon at immune ka. Ganyan daw ang basic concept ng vaccine. Pero ito daw vaccine na pinag-aaralan nila noon at marahil itong gagawin nila ngayon. Yung daw virus, kukunin nila, they will genetically modify this. So that when it's injected to you, it will allow you to fight the COVID virus, but it will also bring down your immune system and be susceptible to other kinds of sicknesses, so that your death might be caused by some other rather than COVID. No?
It's like that.
It's like Dengvaxia, no? But it's also like HIV,
Right.
They bring down the immune system. This is like the plague of all plagues. Alam nyo po ang tao, tingnan nyo po palakas lang tayo, uminom tayo ng vitamina, right exercise, and so on and so forth. Ang immune system natin may natural capacity to fight disease.
Right.
No? Pero kung minsan matindi yung disease, nahahawa tayo. Tapos lalabanin ng katawan natin yan. Bibigyan natin ng injection yung katawan ng mga vitamina para malabanan yung sakit natin na pumapasok. Ngayon, kung ang gagawin nila, i-injection ka para humina ang resistance mo, humina ang capability mo to fight the virus, you're more susceptible to any kind of disease.
Well, that's the AIDS virus. Acquired immune deficiency disease.
Yun nga sinasabi ko, like
Syndrome.
HIV. Ibababa ang immune system mo. And you can die of anything.
Any disease.
Pneumonia, flu,
So may cold ka,
mamamatay ka. No? Any kind. Ang tawag dito, the plague of all plagues. And if it happens, I hope to God, of course, that it does not. They will force this vaccine, this so-called miracle vaccine, on the people. Dito lang sa ating bansa. May pinag-uusapan na nagsalitang ang presidente, kausap niya yung Secretary of Education na marahil pagdating ng vaccine, they will force all of the children to be vaccinated. And that if they will not be vaccinated, they will not be allowed to go to school. You imagine that.
That's human rights.
Tapos, siyempre, pag nasaksakan mo na yung mga bata, kasama na rin pati yung mga magulang. Lahat ito ay ginagawa ng mga plano. Kasama na po dyan itong napakasamang tao na si George Soros. Sanang mapakita na natin yung...
Yeah, just to itong si George Soros po, para po siyang siya yung history nito, pwede naman, you can look it up in the internet, talking about George Soros for a while and who he is now. Now he's about 90 plus years old. But maraming galamay po yan. And George Soros funds through also some yung mga mysterious funders. Through him, he is funding a lot of these NGOs in the world, and they foment, they encourage, they build what they call color revolutions. Color revolutions for regime change. Kunyari, ayaw nyo makinig, meron tayong presidente tulad ni Trump na independent foreign policy. Ayaw na niya ng globalization. Ayaw na niya ng lugi yung America, for example. Si George Soros will fund media, will fund organizations, non-government. He will go through schools. Marami po siyang galamay. And he will then try to remove Trump. That's how he does it. The current aspect of it is how do we know this po? Lumilitaw po yung pangalan niya dati pa. Pero yung mainstream media, para siyang ayaw nilang tamaan tong si George Soros. Bakit kaya? And this is not conspiracy theory anymore. It is out in the open already, and this is proof. The next clip we will show you, it's about 10 minutes long. It's a report by Newsmax Media, an interview with Glenn Beck, talking about George Soros.
Yung sinasabi ni Itos na color revolution, no? Para dagdagan po natin. Yung yellow,
Yes.
yung mga yellow tards na tinawagan natin na yan. Kanya, yung revolution natin nung EDSA, no?
Yellow.
Ang kulay na ginamit, yung yellow, no? Kanya itong mga yellow, hanggang ngayon, nandyan sila Noy, no? Mga yellow tards, ang tawag natin yellow tards kasi retarded, no? Pero yellow, marami pong mga revolusyon sa iba-ibang lugar sa mundo na ginawa nila, na gumagamit sila ng kulay. Sa Ukraine, ginamit nila yata orange, no?
Yes.
Sa Thailand, ginamit nila pula yata or something like that. Pero color revolutions, dumadaan sila kuminsan sa electoral process, kampanya kuno, dadayain ng COMELEC nila. Pero ang revolusyon gumagamit ng kulay. Etong Antifa, ang kulay ay
black and red.
Black and red. Yun ang kanilang color, black and red. very appropriate for the colors of anything that is satanic, di ba po?
Correct. Kasi si George Soros po is known to be funding this. And lumalabas at lumilitaw, not just in online, but even in mainstream media, mapakita natin. Meron isang interview with former, I think, Newt Gingrich was former Speaker of the House.
Yeah, so Republican yan.
Republican. So Newt Gingrich was being interviewed on Fox News po 2 days ago. And while panel interview po yun, tas minention niya si George Soros. Sabi niya, si George Soros bumibili ng mga district attorney, bumibili ng mga NGOs. Dapat siya ang may kasalanan doon. Tapos biglang tumahimik lahat ng news anchors and
sa Fox News.
Napaka-awkward, tumahimik, biglang nagulat sila na. Tapos sabi ng isa, we don't need to bring George Soros' name into this.
Yeah. Alam niyo po,
natakot sila kung paano sila.
Tandaan niyo po, Fox News supposed to be Republican.
Yes.
Pero mainstream media yan. No? Kanya po itong si Donald Trump, no? Bagamat Republican siya, no? Pero lang siya, Republican by convenience, no? Kasi hindi naman siya politiko eh. Inadapt lang siya ng Republican para may kandidato sila, no? Kanya itong mainstream media ng Republican, ng Fox News, ang lumalabas, kontrolado pa rin ni George Soros.
Yun ang lumabas sa interview. Sabi ni Newt Gingrich, so it's verboten.
Verboten, it is
ibig sabihin,
not allowed.
Yeah, not allowed. You're not allowed to mention.
Don't mention. No.
Zero. Bakit kaya?
Prohibited. No.
So there is now, malaking news po yan sa States. Kasi now it puts George Soros and his network in the limelight. Maganda po to. Sige, Roxanne,
Fox has touched off a firestorm of criticism after an appearance by Newt Gingrich on one of their shows. Fox News Channel is being accused of censoring criticism of the left-wing extremist and Democrat socialist financier George Soros after this exchange went viral on social media.
Pro-criminal and overwhelmingly elected with George Soros' money, and they're a major cause of the violence we're seeing because they keep putting the violent criminals back on the street.
I'm not sure we need to bring George Soros into this. I was going to say you'd get the last word, Speaker.
He paid for it. I mean, why can't we discuss the fact that millions of dollars he spent?
I agree with Melissa. George Soros doesn't need to be a part of this conversation.
Okay. So it's verboten.
All right, we're going to.
Powerful voices, folks, have weighed in on this. Dick Morris told Newsmax TV that he was shocked by that video you just saw. Bill O'Reilly confirmed that a thou shalt speak no ill of Soros doctrine exists over there at Fox. And talk show host and former Fox star Glenn Beck said this.
I will tell you that George Soros is not to be discussed. It is verboten. When I got down to the end, one of the things at Fox News, they were starting to tell me, I can't talk about things, I just talk about this, stop talking about that. One of them was God, one of them was Israel, and the other one was George Soros. How can you be an honest reporter if you won't report the fact, the reported fact, that what Newt Gingrich said is absolutely true? This is why he is so off limits, because what is being done to our country, his fingerprints are all over it.
All right, so I sat down with George Soros expert Glenn Beck, who is also the host of the nationally syndicated Glenn Beck radio program and co-founder of The Blaze Media. Here's how our conversation went. I want to welcome to the program Mr. Glenn Beck. Glenn, welcome back to the Chris Salcedo Show.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be here.
A true story. We were sitting around talking about this story after it broke. One of our team said, well, who is the foremost expert out there on George Soros? I said, without hesitation, Glenn Beck. So you've done so much research and reporting on this. It's hard to confine it to a 7 or 8 minute interview. But Give us the Cliff Notes version of Soros and his malign activities and why Americans should care about this.
So George Soros, in some of the things that I find the most disturbing, come from interviews that he did, you can find online on 60 Minutes, where he talks about his desire to change the world and experiment with things, experiment with democracies and experiment with people. And he has caused chaos in markets and collapsed markets around the world. He's not welcome in, I think, 3 different countries. He is an enemy of the state in 3 different countries. He was just kicked out of Russia. I think Ukraine is thinking about it. Georgia, I believe, just did it. But that wasn't for actually collapsing them. That's because they knew what kind of influence he has. When he was asked about these things, he's so nonchalant about it. At least back then, 60 Minutes interviewed him. He said it's kind of fun, and I know people get hurt or people have their lives upended, but it's really kind of fun. And I feel almost as though he is. Almost so disconnected from reality, it's almost sociopathic. He wants to do what he wants to do, and that is create civil society 2.0, which is what I believe he's trying to do here in the United States. We exposed it in Ukraine. That's what the impeachment was all about. And what he does is he gobbles up the law enforcement. He gobbles up the attorney generals. He gobbles up the district attorneys. If he can't change it in Washington or in the capital of that country, he changes it by going in and controlling who's prosecuted and who's not. Then through his organizations, he begins to siphon money off of the country and puts his people in charge. That's what he was doing in Ukraine. That's what he's doing here in America right now. Newt Gingrich the other night on Fox News, they said about Soros that, we best not talk about him. I remember those conversations where you're not supposed to talk about George Soros.
Wait a minute. I want to get to that here in a. Yeah, I want to get to that here in a second, but I just want to ask, is there any doubt in your mind that George Soros has his fingerprints on the upheaval we're seeing in liberal cities across this country?
Well, zero. He is funding through several organizations the riots and the people that are rioting in the streets through several organizations. There's absolutely no question. We could show you the documentation. I have shown the documentation on air.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to turn to Harris Faulkner, she was the one who didn't cut off Newt Gingrich on their program there on Fox. She issued an apology. I want to take a look at that. Go ahead, guys.
Our guest, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, who is beloved and needed to be allowed to speak with the openness and respect that the show is all about, was interrupted. Do we debate with fire here? Yes. But we must also give each other the space to express ourselves. As the only original member of the 6-year-old amazing daytime ride known as Outnumbered, I especially want to rock and roll with every voice and perspective at the table. We don't censor on this show.
Okay, so Dick Morris has come out and said he was astounded by this video. Bill O'Reilly has come out and said, yeah, there is a rule there at Fox, thou shalt speak no ill of George Soros. What can you tell us? Is there a rule there at Fox?
I can tell you, absolutely, there is a rule at Fox. Remember, George Soros spent $1 million of his own money to build the very first smear campaign office, that ran 24 hours a day. That's all documented. You can read about it in Cheryl Atkinson's book. You could Google that, and you'd probably find that. When I was at Fox, I've often told the story, but up until this week, I haven't attached the rest of the details to the story. But I've often told the story of being in Roger Ailes' office, and he said to me at one point, "You know what your problem is?" And I said, "No, I'm anxious to hear." He said, "You won't play the game." He said, look, we play a game. He said, do you think I didn't know Al Sharpton was going to, protest in front of Don Imus's studios? Of course I did. And he needed a pound of flesh. He calls me before, gets a pound of flesh. Then when I need a pound of flesh, I go do something against him. And then we all have dinner at night. And I was so disgusted by that. And I said, I don't want to, it's not a game to me. I don't want to be a part of that. But that conversation was about George Soros. Stop with the George Soros stuff. He is friends with everybody. He's friends, I'm sure, with Murdoch. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm sure they have some sort of business arrangement, and they make money on everything that they do. And George Soros has a lock because he can destroy you. His number two guy met with my number two guy and called and said, Mr. Soros has a message and would like to have a conversation with you, the number two guy in my company. And so they agreed to have lunch in public, and it was nothing but a threat. They had lunch. The first thing that was said by the Soros representative was, your boss is hurting my boss, and it's going to stop. The last thing he said was, I don't think you understand. The ship has sailed, and you're either on the ship or you're not. And my guy said, my boss, I don't even have to ask him, is not wanting to be on that ship. And the ship that I believe he was talking about is the ship that we're now seeing, where this Marxist revolutionary ship that is folding right into the World Economics Great Reset, folding right into Event 201, all of those things, that's the ship that was sailing. And everybody has to decide now, are you on the ship or not?
Yeah, well, it's sobering to hear it. Glenn Beck, first off, a big thank you. A lot of folks don't know, the Chris Salcedo radio show was born on the Blaze Radio Network, thanks to you. So you have my eternal thanks for that.
I've always
and also thank you for making the time today.
Newsmax TV.
Okay. So you saw, kontrolado yung Fox News. Parang takot na takot silang. And this is, you don't have to mention CNN or things.
Lahat yun ay hawak na.
But the key also what Glenn Beck was saying is that hawak rin nila George Soros a lot of this learning states in. Pag hawak mo po yung district, alam nyo po kung pwede nyo sinong protect.
Kung hindi niya ma-control yung White House, yung Kapitolyo, sabihin na sa mga ibang bansa, hindi mo makontrol yung namumuno, no? Ang gagawin mo, lalakaran mo itong mga galamay, no? Yung mga lower level officials like sa judicial system, importante yung mga maestrado, yung mga judges, kasi pag may nasampang kaso, siyempre hindi sila nadadamay o malilibre sila kasi hawak na nila, no? Yan ang sistema nila. Kaya dito sa Pilipinas, huwag kayong mag-isip na hindi tayo nahawakan nitong mga tao ni George Soros. Nandito sila. Madalas na namin sinasabi, yung Commission on Human Rights, lahat yan ay tao na nila. Yung mga iba-ibang mga organisasyon sa media, lahat yan hawak na nila. Meron pa tayong CNN Philippines, lahat yan hawak na nila. Kung hindi man yung mga taong mga mismong mga minions, mga employees, yung namumuno, doon hawak na nila. At kaya nilang papihit ang kinakailangan nilang pihit. Kung gugustuhin na nilang tirahin na si Presidente Duterte. Ngayon, Si Presidente Duterte, pwede siyang sumunod para hindi siya maano dahil napakahigante nitong kalaban niya, o pwede niyang labanan alang-alang sa kapakanan ng mamamayang Pilipino. So the choice of these leaders is going to be like that. No? Do you follow yung sinabi nung tao before the end of the video? You must understand, sabi niya doon sa kausap niya, that the ship has sailed. You are either on that ship or you are not. Diba? Ano yung ship has sailed? Umandar na yung plano. Yung planong malawakan, paano yung gagawin nila. Sa atin sinasabi, ang gusto nila talaga one world government. Hindi yung gagawin mong komunista ang Amerika, hindi yon. Sisirain nila para magkaroon ng opportunity na magkaroon ng one world government. Bakit po importante na sirain nyo yung Amerika? Kasi Amerika ang pinaka malakas na demokrasya, na republika sa buong mundo. At dyan talaga naka-connect ang buong mundo. Pati na po ang China naka-connect dyan. Lahat po ng mga ine-export ng China, ang bumibili Amerikano. No? At pag hindi na bumili yan at bumagsak na ekonomiya ng Amerikano, babagsak na rin ng China. Ito ang nakikita po natin. Kung kulang pa yan pagbagsak ng mga ekonomiya, ang susunod nito, gagawa sila ng paraan para magkagera at ibagsak itong mga iba-ibang mga bansa. Tingnan nyo, meron bang mananalo sa isang malawakang gera? Kala nyo, Amerika at China, Amerika mananalo or China mananalo? That's stupidity. The whole world loses in a world war of this kind. The whole world. Wala pong maiiwan na enough structure in any government that will continue to function as a republic or as a nation. Masisira po lahat ng infrastructure, lahat ng social and physical infrastructure. Masisira yan sa isang malawakang gera. But they don't care. The important thing is there is a one world government which they will rule. And they don't care if they will kill 7 billion people and only have 1 million or 100 million people left. They don't care as long as they rule the world. That's why madalas po natin sinasabi, excuse me for saying this all the time, this is a fight between good and evil. No? Satan is alive and well and doing his thing. No? Yan pong mga nakikita natin ngayon, no? Na paglalaban ng tao, no? Using our minds, using our capabilities to understand what is going on, no? Is our method of fighting for our lives, fighting for our countries, that we survive this and we continue in our freedom. No? Importante po yan. These are the people that want to destroy that. Yung pong the ship has sailed, ibig sabihin, mandar na. Di mo na mapapara yan.
Sabi niya, parang sinasabi niya, either kasama ka o hindi.
Yeah.
Mamili ka. Kasi kung di ka kasama, kalabang ka. Parang it's a tinetreaten niya.
Yes.
Itong si Glenn Beck, yung host, through his agent. Sabi niya, dapat kasama ka. Saan papunta? Ano yung sinasabi niya? Saan papunta saan? Ito, yung sinasabi ni Glenn Beck. Ito yung mga nangyayari ngayon sa US. And if I went on that, kung sumama si Glenn Beck, iba yung tono niya, iba yung sasabihin niya. He will go against Trump. He will promote destruction. Again, just to emphasize po yung sinasabi ni Chairman, no? Ang globalist, remember, parati natin sinasabi, Trump, when he went to Davos, Switzerland, ito yung meeting ng mga elite, financial elite, political elite. I think it was the World Economic Forum or meeting. Yung speech niya po doon, kaka-elect po lang niya. Sabi niya, the future does not belong to the globalists. It belongs to patriots. Ang mensahe po niyan, alam na alam niya kung sino yung mga kausap niya. When Trump said that, he said it in public, in a speech, lahat silang gathered din. Ang mensahe doon, lalabanan ko kayong mga globalist kayo. Ang globalists, when they think, sila yung nagpaandar ng globalization, na natin yon. Pero sila rin nagpaandar ng free trade. Okay? Sila rin nagpaandar ng dapat walang against nation states in the years before. Ang konsepto po nila, dapat walang mga borders, nations. Dapat lahat sila pare-pareho lang, tapos tayo ang one world government. How will they rule? They'll rule through IMF, World Bank, the global institutions, EU, which
United
is
Nations.
United Nations, who is the conception of Franklin Delano Roosevelt after the war. Kinurap po nila yung UN, tsaka World Bank. Who will be in charge of health? WHO. Who will be in charge of the economy? IMF, World Bank. Who will be in charge of politics? United Nations. The United Nations peacekeeper, siya yung world's police force. Ayaw nila ng nation state. Ayaw nila ng presidente ng ganito. Gusto lang nila, lahat kayo under us. So wala silang pinipiling nationality. They're not from Britain, they're not from the US, they're a mix of all of these old world financial elite. Because po, bago pa nag-Amerika, alam na natin yung history. Bago pa nagkaroon ng mga republika or nation states, Europe was ruled by monarchy. The world, we were under the monarchy of Spain. Tapos sila lang nagmi-meeting po. Yung mga king, yung mga hari, di ba? Yung mga ganun sa mundo. Tapos sila nagsasabi kung ano yung policies ng iba't ibang country. They determine who lives and who dies. Gusto ng mga to, yung mga globalists of today, where Soros is a part of, gusto nila ibalik sa dati. Ganon. So they are all the favor of the population. Ang sinasabi po ni Chairman kanina na from 7 billion to 100 million.
Yeah, 1 billion.
1 billion. Yung mga globalists, each of them, Bill Gates, George Soros, Prince Philip, lahat na sila. They've stated it in many interviews. Hindi po kami nag-iimbento. Hindi po kami nag-speculate. Out of their own words. Sinasabi nila, there's too many people on the earth. We need to depopulate. Ang ideal po is 1 billion
To them.
to them. So dapat 1 billion. So imagine, from 7 billion to 1 billion, what percentage is that? That's about maybe sabihin mo, 15%.
But the point there is their idea. Like, since you mentioned Prince Philip, I will also expound on it. Prince Philip po, kilala niyo po siya, yung asawa ni Queen Elizabeth. No? Naghihingalo na lang siya ngayon, pero itong anak niya, siya rin sila Charles
Philip.
at marami pa rin na gumagawa ng kanilang pag-iisip. Sabi ni Prince Philip, if since he advocates the decrease of populations from 7 billion to 1 billion in generation. And sabi na that it is not enough that there are wars. There should be other means more effective to be able to bring down population. And meron lang sinasabi na, hindi lang sa isang interview, several, and in his speeches, And he has been quoted in different magazines. No? Sabi niya, if reincarnation were true, Prince Philip says, if reincarnation were true, I would like to be reincarnated as a specially deadly virus so that I will make my contribution to the world's overpopulation. Why is it that these kinds of people see human beings as their enemy? Because alam niyo po, ang isip ng imperialista o ng monarch o ng those that feel that they own the world, their feeling is there are too many people. And if there are so many people, these people will be eating up the resources. Yan po si Prince Philip na ikita niyo. Sa itsura na lang alam niyong masamang tao yan. The people will be eating up the world's resources. And those resources are not theirs. Those resources in the Philippines are not theirs. You should cut down their population so that they will not eat up and consume all of the minerals and resources of that country and all the rest of the countries, because this is ours. Sila po yung elite. Ganyan po mag-isip itong mga demonyong to. Yan po ang hindi lang si Prince Philip, meron pa rin silang mga iba. At yan si George Soros kasama po dyan. No? Itong mga ibang mga tao noon, sila Prince Bernard kasama po dyan. Yan si Prince Philip, siya po ang namumuno ng WWF. Alam niyo po yung WWF? World Wildlife Fund. World Wildlife Fund. WWF. Fund means pera. Founder siya. Etong founder nito, etong si Prince Philip, may pondo siya na nakukuha sa mga iba-ibang mga institusyon tsaka sa kanila, mga bangko. At itong pondong ito ang ginagamit niya pang pondo sa mga Greenpeace, itong mga environmental groups na laban sa sangkatauhan. Hindi lahat ng environmental groups laban sa sangkatauhan. Yung mga iba talagang environment. Pero marami dyan sa mga environmentalists laban sa development, laban sa pag-uunlad ng taong bayan. That is very clear. And we have to understand who our enemies are.
You have to remember po, ano nangyari 1986? At ang ating first Bataan nuclear power plant. Our one and only until now. 1986, di na pinatakbo after Marcos was forced to leave. But 1984, 1985, yung mga nagpo-protesta po. After 86, may mga grupo na gustong i-revive yung Bataan nuclear power plant. Sino po ang lumalaban dyan? Yan po ang network George Soros. Since then, anything that benefits the population of any country in terms of infrastructure development, mga dam, mga highways, mga ganon. May lulutang dyan ng mga NGO, mga environmentalist group na mangiingay na tinutulungan ng mainstream media. Okay, pinapalaki nila yung issue. Alright? And they will say, we need to block these projects. So if it's a project to give electricity, kailangan po. So infrastructure, kailangan po ng you dig up for pipelines and all of that to bring water to our fellow citizens in remote areas for electricity and water and for general welfare. Iba-block po nila, sasabihin nila sayang yung mga ibon, yung mga bahay ng mga ibon diyan. magiging extinct yung mga ano. Sayang yung mga indigenous na tao dyan na nakalagay dyan who still live in the wild.
Kanya wag nyo pong bibigyan ng trabaho yung tao.
Oh,
Kasi mamamatay yung mga hayop dito.
yes.
No?
Huwag yung bigyan ng tubig or electricity kasi mamamatay
Right.
yung hayop, sayang.
These are the people that you will notice who they are. I'm not talking about the people that don't like this white sand in the in
Manila Bay.
Manila Bay. No?
Hindi
They
naman-
are just anti-Duterte, period. No?
Saka that doesn't benefit anybody.
Pero yung mga anti-energy development, yung mga anti-infrastructure,
Anti-nuclear.
yung mga yan, no? Ibang intention ng mga yan.
Yes.
Mas malalim po ang kanilang ideology. No? Hindi po necessarily Marxist lang yan.
Hindi.
Although maraming Marxist dyan. No?
Yes.
Their ideology is anti-human.
Anti-human.
Even the people in government, I would dare say,
Yes.
people like Duque, people like Ben Jokno, people like Kusi, and the rest of them, no? They're anti-human. Their concept of an economy is to bring down the population so that the statistics of GDP looks better. Kasi mas konti ang papakainin mo.
And therefore, if the statistics of GDP look better, you can borrow more.
Yes.
Because that's also a conditionality of the lenders.
The lenders.
You have to keep your population rate steady and
Or
your
down.
death rate up, ganon. Ma-manipulate mo na ng ganyan para, okay, we can lend you money. Kasi kung hindi, parang lugi kayo. Dapat ano. That's how the negotiation.
Depopulation.
They want to keep it down.
Anti-human. Instead of moving towards development so that we survive and develop and prosper, their idea, cut down population. How do you cut down population? Ano ba yan? Yung birth control pills? Tapos na ba yan? Hindi po. The real way to cut down the population is to lessen the useless eaters. Tawag natin useless eaters. Ito yung gobyerno. Gumagastos siya para sa lahat ng mamamayan. Pero dito mga mamamayan, ano yan? Meron kang mga kabataan, no? These are the children from 1-year-old to, let's say, 20 years old, 25 years old, before they become workers, right? Tapos ito po yung workers mo. Tapos meron ka pang mga retirees.
So 25 to 60.
Oo.
Diba? Yun yung working life mo.
Tapos noon yung actually up to 55. Pero sabihin na natin, and then from there up, there's meron ka pa ng ilang porsyento dyan. Ngayon, paano mo, ikaw yung gobyerno, gumagastos ka ng education, ng healthcare nitong kabataan.
School.
Libre yan. Libre ang public school, libre
health.
ang health, libre ang pagkain at kung mabibigyan mo pa sila. At anong gagawin mo? Bakit mo ginagawa to? Para pagpasok nila sa labor force, you have a healthy and educated labor force. Di po ba? Ngayon, etong mga ekonomista, ang tingin nila dito, mga useless eaters. Bakit useless eaters? Kasi kumakain at binibigyan mo pa ng suporta, pero wala naman silang production. Kaya ang tawag nila dyan, useless eaters. They are not contributing to the economy of the Philippines. Ano pa yung isang useless eater sa kanila? Yung mga matatanda na, wala ng trabaho, wala na sila sa labor force.
Consumer na lang.
consumer na lang at sinusuportahan mo pa. Kanya ang mga ekonomista ayaw gamitin ang pera ng gobyerno para suportahan yung mga matatanda, useless eaters. Anong gagawin nila? Para mabawasan ang populasyon, hindi nila tutulungan yung mga matatanda para tumagal pa ang buhay. Etong mga bata, gumagawa sila ng pamamaraan para mamatay at hindi dumami. Kaya meron kang birth control at meron kang dengvaxia at iba-iba pa. Kaya ito susunod na itong vaccine ng COVID na ititirik nila mandatory sa mga bata.
Kalkulado yan di ba? Alam nila what age.
Their whole concept is evil, depopulation. And they're willing to kill droves human beings, much more than genocide. They're willing to do that. And this is happening not just here in the Philippines. But we must understand that this is what we are up against. It is so sad that our Catholic hierarchy, our religious groups, are so quiet and so stupid about this. When Satan himself is showing his face to them, they will ignore it and turn around and play their politics against Duterte instead of focusing their sights against the true enemy of human beings. It is so painful for me to see our Catholic hierarchy. Not a single one have I talked to except the one who had passed away. His name is Bishop Oscar Cruz. Only one among all of them understood what was happening. The rest, yung mga yan, mga Sok Villegas, mga Pabilio, mga David, mga politika. Usapin mo sila tungkol dito sa depopulation, zero. No idea. And yet, they talk as if though they are God's messengers. If they were messengers, definitely they are not God's. They are somebody else's messengers. Ganyan po kasi ang nangyayari sa atin. And the earlier we identify this, the more we can prepare and address the evil that is going to hit us. Going back to this COVID thing, we have repeatedly said at that time when COVID started and then the announcement that there was going to be a lockdown, we said that the lockdown was going to kill more people than the disease itself if we are not careful. Where was that coming from? Where was that idea coming from early on, in early March or somewhere? It's common sense. Common sense lang po yun. Bakit? Walang common sense ang ating mga namamahala tungkol dito. Why were they reacting like panic-stricken rats? And doing everything, understanding that the people are going to die. Why is it that the president never questioned the process that the Department of Health was doing? What do you mean? What do I mean? Hindi ba ang unang announcement dapat ng Department of Health, pag meron padating na disease na katulad ditong COVID, is to improve the immune system. Magpalakas kayo para malabanan nyo itong disease. Lakasin nyo ang inyong capability to fight the disease. How? Vitamins A, vitamins C, vitamins D, lahat po ng kinakailangan, zinc, at kung ano-ano pang vitamins. Wala kayong pera para bumili nito? Pues, ito ang kainin nyo. May nakikita nyo yan sa gulay, sa ganitong pagkain. Yan ang unang-una dapat pinupukpok ng ating Department of Health dito sa sitwasyon na ito. Why? To strengthen the immune system. Why is that very important? Tingnan nyo po. Dumaan na tayong more than 6 months ngayon dito sa COVID-19. At ang sinasabi natin, parating na itong vaccine. Pag nag-vaccine po, magno-normalize. That is one of the most stupid conclusions that you can make. This government is so stupid. There is no such thing as normalization anymore. Because if we understand that these people who have created the COVID-19 are tanga to think that this is the first disease that will hit the public. No? That means they're bobos pala. But they're not. They're satanic. So here is a situation where natapos na at nag-complain na yung tao na sinasabi, ay, hindi kami magpapa-injection dyan, hindi kami magpapa-vaccinate.
May pushback.
They push back. They expected the pushback because they know that the human beings can think and can analyze already that there is something wrong going on. So what is their step? The next step, I can almost assure you, will be a mutated disease, more lethal, much more of a killer than the first one. Can they do that? If you can do the first one, then you can do the next one. And the next one will be more lethal. Maybe instead of 1% mortality, you will be hitting 20-30% mortality. 1 out of 3 people that get the disease will die. When the people are seeing this, you will force them, you will push them into accepting being vaccinated. Dahil sa takot. Yung mga nasa gobyerno, kasing bobo din natin yan. They will refuse to see the obvious. They will not know how to fight. The only way we can fight this now is not to rely on an intelligent government. The only way we can fight this now, and you can anticipate what can happen, is to continue to strengthen your immunity and that of your family. You must continue and identify the medicines and the vitamins that will give you the strength to fight disease. This thing is too big for us to destroy. There is no effort on our part. Even if you overthrow Duterte, even if you declare a revolutionary, when this thing hits us, it will. Economy is going to stop. None of these bright people in the DOH will have anything to say. Our economy will stop. The only way that we can save the situation for us is to have enough people to understand first who the enemy is, what we are facing, and understand what we have to do in order to survive it. And surviving it is the first step towards development. This is the kind of situation we're facing. Everything is unprecedented. What is happening in the US, the kind of turmoil it is facing, crisis that the US is facing, happening all over the world. But the crisis the US is facing is going to impact on the rest of us. This guy, President Trump, I don't idolize him. We don't. We don't even vote. We cannot vote for him. But we know that it is him alone now that is fighting this whole ship that is already being sailed. This whole move towards globalization and one world government, he is the only stumbling block. He has said that this election, this November 4 election in the United States, is the most important event in the history of mankind. He understands that the results of that election will determine whether we slide down into a destruction of our civilization or is able to defeat the enemies of man and move towards a higher level of existence for humankind. He understands that. We don't care whether he was a saint before or not, but he knows who the enemy is. And I understand he knows that it is good versus evil. And he has chosen the side of the good. He's the only one.
The most pro-life president now that the U.S. has. The Democrats and Biden are the most high-life president, which we can segue into what happened recently sa US. Big news po is namatay po ang isang Supreme Court Justice
Yes.
na si Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ginsburg, yeah.
Bader Ginsburg, yan. With the green earrings.
She died of cancer. Could you give us a background on this one?
Ruth is
Who
one
is
of
she?
those. She is held up as a champion of the women's, what do you say, women's rights movement and women's rights leaders because she helped defend the constitutionality in the Supreme Court that a woman has a right to do. Her body is hers. So she can do whatever she wants with it, including abortion.
So, yan ang alam niyo po, yung debate na umabot sa Supreme Court sa Amerika. Roe versus Wade. R-O-E versus Wade. W-A-D-E. You might want to check it out. Nagkaroon po mga tinding debate dyan na papayag ba ang Estados Unidos sa abortion, no? o hindi. Ito yung tinatawag na pro-choice. No? Hindi dumicide na pwede ang abortion. Hindi nag-decide na hindi pwede ang abortion. Pero ang dinicide nila yung pro-choice. At saying that every woman, no, in order to preserve her health and her well-being, has a right to make the decision to kill her baby inside the womb, no, for her own sake, for the mother's own sake and welfare. Yun ang tinatawag na landmark decision. Etong si Ginsburg, siya ang isang principal advocate nito. At siya din ang naging deciding vote sa pagpapanalo nitong pro-choice. Kaya etong mga Democrats na liberal ang kanilang pag-iisip, binida etong si Ruth Ginsburg, Justice of the Supreme Court. Ruth Ginsburg. Binida siya dahil dito. Namatay itong taong to kamakailan lang. Yesterday. At kinakailangan palitan siya ng Pangulo. Magbibigay ng recommendation, i-approve ng Senado yung recommendation ng Presidente kung sinong kapalit nitong si Ruth Ginsburg. Galit na galit ang mga Democrats ngayon.
At yung mga liberal.
Yung mga liberal. Kasi ito ang isa nilang mga bayani sa ginagawa nilang panggugulo. Ito ang nakikita nilang kalaban ni President Trump sa pag-iisip. Si President Trump, sabi nilang ni Itos, is the most pro-life president ever. Hindi lang siya pro-life. No? Pinapabalik niya ang pagtuturo ng religion. No?
In the classrooms, in the schools, public schools.
Sa public schools, pinapabalik niya ang pagtuturo. At dito sa mga ibang private schools, pinapabalik niya din, kung gusto nila, maglagay ng krus sa classroom. Siya rin ang lumalaban dito sa panukala ng mga mambabatas na Democratic Party na tinatanggal nila yung phrase doon sa kanilang panata na one nation under God. Ayaw nilang ilagay one nation under God doon sa kanilang
Oath of Allegiance.
Oath of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the American flag. Ayaw nila yung one nation under God. Trump pinapabalik niya. Itong mga Antifa, tsaka itong mga Democrats, pinapawasak nila lahat ng mga status at mga monumento ng kanilang mga pinuno tsaka mga bayani. Bakit? Kasi gusto nila masira ang kasaysayan ng Amerika. Kasi sa kanilang paningin, ang kasaysayan ng Amerika ay slavery.
Yan ang pinapalabas nila.
Pinapalabas nila na umunlad lang ang Amerika dahil ginawa nilang alipin ang mga itim. Ang nagpaahon sa mga itim, yung emancipation, slaves was Abraham Lincoln, who was actually a Republican. At ang kalaban po ng konstitusyon ng Declaration of Independence ng Amerika ay slavery. Doon sa kanilang Declaration of Independence, they start off, all men are created equal. Ibig sabihin, no slavery. That's the Declaration of Independence. And yet, they want to destroy this whole concept and claim that America was built on slavery.
Ito po yung mga globalists na important for us. Ano? That's their goal. And yung mga Black Lives Matter, Antifa, pag in-interview po sa mga internet or their leaders, they've said that. Di sila nahihiya sabihin yun. Ang goal natin is cancel culture, erase natin lahat ng history, then we'll build again na walang slavery. So yun ang gusto nila mangyari sa sisirain na yun. I wanted to go back to Ruth Bader, no?
Yeah.
The significance of Ruth Bader Ginsburg po, namatay ito. Now, what happens now is that Trump has to appoint now a new Supreme Court justice. Now, when he appoints, may mga listahan yan. So, kasi vacant yung seat eh. Right? So, there are 9 Supreme Court justices. So, yung isa will be the tiebreaker. I think now, since without our Ruth Ginsburg died, there is a vacancy. And it's very crucial kasi I think it's 4-4. I think we can research that, no? But I remember from before, 4-4-4, medyo appointed by Obama, and then these last 4 by Trump kasi president can nominate. But the ones who will decide and accept the nomination and accept her who is the next Supreme Court justice is the Senate. Okay? Yung Senate po ay kontrolado ng mga Republican. Yung Congress ngayon, mas maraming Democrat sa Kongreso. Pero yung Senate po, ang siyang magde-decide, siya mag-a-accept. Yung Congress, walang say dyan sa Supreme Court National. Itong Senate may say. So they will accept the nomination. Ang importante po dyan ngayon, why po naloloko na yung mga Democrats and Liberals, sabi namin kanina, is because the death of Ruth Ginsburg, Trump can now appoint his own nominee. And presumably, this Supreme Court nominee will be in line with pro-life, with pro-jobs, everything that Trump wants. Okay? Presumably, syempre, di ba?
Yes.
Why would you nominate yung kalaban mo?
Saka he said they will nominate a woman.
Okay. So, when he puts her there, and then Senate, sabi naman ng Senate, nakaalyado niya, na Republican, si Mitch McConnell, sabi niya, pag na-nominate mo na, maghihiring na kami para meron ng nakaupo, para wala ng delay, para tuloy-tuloy yung trabaho ng Supreme Court. Ayaw po nila Hillary at Barack Obama at yung mga Democrats at yung mga Liberals. Galit na galit sila. Sinasabi nila, and lumalabas sa tweets, lumalabas sa mga Twitter and Facebook, yung mga account nila, they're calling for people to kill Mitch McConnell.
Who is Mitch McConnell?
Mitch McConnell is the Senate Majority Leader. He is
Na
the
Republican.
Republican, yes.
Kasi siya ang mag-preside.
Yes.
Pag nabigay na yung nominee, no,
They will
do the, no, and they will endorse and they will decide.
Remember what happened with Kavanaugh? Judge Kavanaugh not too long ago, na
Right.
last year,
Kavanaugh.
na-appoint Kavanaugh si Trump. Merong biglang lumabas na ni-rape daw siya ni Kavanaugh, Judge Kavanaugh. It turns out, mali pala.
Fake news.
Fake news. Pero pinush nila CNN. So, pero sinira niya yung buhay ng judge. Sinira nila yung buhay ni Judge Kavanaugh. So, alam ng mga senators, alam ng mga judges, alam ng mga tao ang ginawa nitong mga Democrats kay Kavanaugh. And they're obviously going to try to do this to whoever is nominated. Why don't they want? Ang tawag nila, sabi ni Barack Obama kanina, and then sabi nila Hillary, dapat hindi mag-appoint si Trump ng bagong Supreme Court. Dapat the next president will appoint. Wag ngayon.
After election daw
Dapat
dapat.
after elections. Ano bang significance? Okay. Ma-recall po natin, yung gusto nila Hillary and Obama and the rest is yung tinatawag natin na mail-in voting. Mail-in voting, papadala ka sa bahay mo, huwag ka na. Kasi may COVID daw, bawal lumabas, bawal bumoto.
Padala mo na lang yung boto mo sa koreo, sa mail.
Mail. So obviously, ang daming gulo niyan. Kung tayo nga lang dito, Smartmatic, ang daming ng lokohan, ang daming fraud. Yun ang gusto ng Democrats. And they will send out, recently they sent out 80 million ballots to all of these Americans. Ang plano kasi nila, sabi po ng mga tao, sabi po ng mga researchers, ang plano kasi nila, alam nila na si Trump mananalo sa November. Pag bumoto po kayo. Bumoto yung mga Amerikano, punta sila sa voting areas. They vote, Trump will win and win big. And then the surveys support this kasi si Biden talaga walang suporta. So alam nila to. Ang plano nila after November 4 election, papasok ngayon yung mga tinatawag na mail-in vote. At papakita nila na panalo pala si Biden. Ngayon magkaka-dispute. Pupunta ngayon sa Supreme Court. Kung buhay pa si Ruth Ginsburg, alam nila, kakampi nila yan. Ngayon, namatay na po. Ngayon, Trump will now have the majority of the Supreme Court. There is a majority in the Senate. There is a majority in the Supreme Court. They have now lost their edge. And it's shown sa mga tweet po nila na sinasabi nila, pag nag-appoint si Trump ng bago, isusunog namin yung White House. Yan ang mga sinasabi nila sa Twitter.
Mga Democrats.
Mga Democrats at mga
First,
supporter
they
nila.
threatened to kill
Mitch
McConnell of the
Senate.
majority head ng Senate. They threatened to kill him, and they also threatened to burn the White House.
We'll burn it all down, sabi ng mga supporters.
Some of them are also threatening to kill Donald.
Yeah, but recently nga, may na-receive daw yung Secret Service sa White House na isang envelopes with ricin. R-I-C-I-N. So this is one of the attempts siguro to poison. Kasi pag nahawakan mo yan, poison po yun. So marami pong attempts ngayon sa life ni Donald Trump. Di natin alam, pero alam with the way it works and the Secret Service, hindi nila sasabihin naman na may. Pero alam nila kung paano gumawa. Yung security po ni Trump, sobrang dami na. Alam po nila kung sinong kalaban nila. Pag may kalaban kang tulad ni George Soros, lumabang ka talaga. So, that is the significance of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And they're going to try to do this if they get to a point. That means anything they do after the elections, contesting the results, will go to the Supreme Court. That's the significance. So we have 10 minutes left.
Yeah, yun lang kay Ginsburg, siyang nagpapalaw ng pro-choice. No? Ngayon po, yan sila Hillary at lahat sila ngayon, they are pro-abortion. Hindi lang pro-choice, pro-abortion. At sa kanila, pag nanalo si Hillary, papayag daw sila na magkaroon ng abortion, late-term abortion. Ano ba yung late-term abortion? Dati, pwede ka magpa-abort ng 1 month, 1 week, 2 weeks. Pero late-term, ngayon, maski na 9 months at bago ka pa manganak, pwede mo pang patayin yung sanggol mo na itong nanay, pwede niyang papatay yung kanyang sanggol na bago mo panganak. Kasi ang kanilang sirang pag-iisip, hindi pa naman tao yan dahil hindi pa napapanganak. This is a distorted sense. No?
And if you challenge that,
Uh,
goes to the Supreme Court.
it will go to the Supreme Court.
You have Ruth Bader Ginsburg
Andun si
there,
Ruth Ginsburg.
and the Democrats.
Maano
The
sila.
other thing that I wanted to, quick lang po. This week also namatay yung father ni Bill Gates. Si Bill Gates Sr. namatay. Now, Bill Gates Sr. was one of those who helped form and was the head of Planned Parenthood po. Planned Parenthood, yun po, yung pro-abortion. And they had abortion clinics all over the US. And recently, since Trump was elected, lumalabas lahat ng video, they were selling po yung mga fetus na na-abort. They were selling human parts to the biomedical companies. Diba? Yun yung paano magiging Kristiyano yung mga yan, diba? Iba talaga eh. So, they were shown to be selling human parts as part of their business. Yun ang Planned Parenthood.
Kagabi, yung isang kasama sa Zoom ng meeting namin, si Pasqua, I think.
Tong Pasqua.
Yeah, he was saying na itong bagong vaccine na ginagamit, ang gagamitin nila mga cells ng fetus ng mga human beings na fetus, bata, no? Saan nila kukunin yun? Siyempre sa mga abortion clinics.
Yep.
No? Tapos sabi niya, it is immoral to get that vaccine because the base of that vaccine is going to be a human fetus. Yan ang sinasabi po na. I don't know if it is true, but these people have nothing to lose.
Yeah, tsaka sabi rin ni Trump, again, I wanted to say, pag na-re-elect po siya, i-defund niya po yung Planned Parenthood.
Right.
So you see, this guy, he knows what he's doing. Nag-post po kanina on Facebook, ilan taon na, just to compare, no? Trump has been in office for 3.5 years. Right? Since 2016, 3.5 years. Biden, 47 years in government, working in politics. Kamala Harris, 30 years. Clinton's, Bill and Hillary, 22 and 23 years. So 45 years combined. The Bushes, Bush Sr. and Bush Jr., 30 and 31 years. Obama, 19 years. In government, whatever, Trump, 3.5 years. So imagine ano yung dinidismantle po. In 3.5 years, he has effectively dismantled all the, or trying
He's
to.
in process of dismantling 50 years of destruction of the United States.
Half a century ng mga to.
That is what he is up against.
Yes.
And we hope to God that he succeeds.
He succeeds, we succeed.
Humankind will succeed.
You will see changes in policy po. So, I guess...
Okay, it's time to read the text messages sent to us by our listeners. Their opinions not necessarily ours, but we reserve the right to read them to the public in the interest of freedom of speech, okay? Good morning, KDP. Sino-sino po mga authors ng EPIRA Law? At kailang kaninong administrasyon na approve ito? Salamat. Mila at Rizal. Yung EPIRA Law was approved during Ramos's time. No? At sino-sino po ang mga authors nito? Well, hindi ko po mabibigay lahat ng pangalan nila, but maybe in the next meeting, we will be announcing this. Sir Butch, ganda lagi ng topic nyo, kaya lang sobrang bulok ng signal nyo. Nakakainis, boy ng Batangas. Masama ba yung signal?
DCXL.
DCXL. Sir, good evening sa mga Katipuneros. Ask ko lang po, ilang taon na ba si George Soros at Bill Gates, Julie of Bulacan? Si George Soros po is more than 90 years old. No? Matanda na po yan, pero yung kasamaan niya ay hindi bumababa. No? Yung anak niya ang active, yung si Alex Soros ba? Ang
We can do a whole hour of Alex Soros.
Oo. Lalabas namin ang storya ng anak niya and then probably another time. No? Si Bill Gates po ay how old is
We can
Bill
research.
Gates? Bill Gates would be about maybe in his 60s, no? Probably mid-60s at the most. Butch, I'm a Q patriot. Nag-comment po ako sa Facebook wall nyo. Pakitignan po. Salamat. Yes, I will.
64.
Oh, he's 64 si Bill Gates. Thank you, Q. Facebook comments. Queenie Fernando, God bless po sa lahat. Rose Reolada, good evening po mga sir. Kung palitan po si Duque, sana po ay di-connected with mafia of DOH and WHO.
Kailangan lahat sila palit.
Marami pong kailangan palitan dyan. Royce Leandel C. Nilo, watching from Iloilo City. Maayong gabi sa inyong lahat. Red Lex and Dayola, Sir Butch, Sir Duque, parang gumawa ng Trump kay Dr. Fauci. Pinapadama lang daw niya. Tama. Watching from Bataan, Peralta, Beth Peralta, Rose Riolada, paano makatulong ang goal ni late President Marcos, economy sa Pinas, considering if Trump wins or lose? Ay, unang-una po, hanapin niyo kung talagang may goal si Marcos at kung hawak ng mga Marcos. No? At titingnan po natin, depende kung paano magpapalit ang sistemang pananalapi. No? Kung magagamit natin yung gold o hindi. Yan, Carlo Iway, magandang gabi bayan. Okay, Carlo, good evening at thank you for joining us in the last night's Zoom. Joel Lacandola, good evening, Sir Butch, Sir Itos. Sir Vigo, good evening po. Gabriel Job, magandang gabi po. Minerva Soto, Kakal, good evening. Freddy Orendina, flattening the fear. Dr. Jaime Galveston Group.
Yes, that is the one that guested last night. And yung live stream po called Flattening Fear. So may Facebook group po yan. Tignan nyo po.
Freddy Orendina, vaccines for COVID-19 only. When will it come? Efficacy until when? If in 2021 comes COVID-20, another vaccine, how many vaccines will a person need? Freddy Orendina, why need physical distancing? Face includes eyes from forehead to chin. Why face mask? Overprotected, wearing face shield and mask. For what is physical distancing? To follow who? To wear down and weaken immune system, to increase big pharma's medical experts who know their customers and patients, to put Pinoys into prescription drugs. Their objective is more persons to be drugged, not to cure. Their objective is not for you to become healthy. They need sick people to justify their existence. Rod Voigt, the Pariabras, gandang gabi po Sir Butch at Itos. Katipunan, ang dami ng nalalabasan ng mga accomplishments ng Duterte administration ng Build program, pati na ang White Sandwich at sinasabotahin ng mga kultong dilawan. Tanim isda na wala ring tanim bala. Watching you always from Subic. Thank you, Rod White. Alfredo Orendina, grabe sa Australia, lalo na sa New Zealand. Galit na mamamayan, hypercapnia, inhaling CO2, hypoxia, lack of tama po yun. Ito pong sa akin po, this is my experience. When I put when I put a mask, I hyperventilate, and I have a hard time breathing. I get completely stressed. So stressed na nakatatakot ako, nagkakapalpitation ako, baka ma-heart attack ako. No? And this is what this mask does to me. So it's not gonna save my life. It's going to kill me. Narong Biron. Now I wish this how I wish this will reach the President's attention and kick out Duque for not doing his research on the matter. Henry Pangilinan. Magandang gabi po, Sir Itos at Sir Butch. May tanong lang po, may standard po bang sinusunod ang ating bansa kung ano pong level ng oxygen ang dapat hinihinga natin or safe level, lalo na po pinagsusuot tayo sa pilitan ng PPE sa lahat ng oras. Alam niyo po, ang aking experience dyan, our oxygen level, kung meron kayong oximeter, yung pong linalagay sa daliri, ganyan, yung oximeter, makikita nyo, ang tamang level po is 95 and above. Hanggang umaabot po yan hanggang 99. Wala pong 100 ang oxygen level. Hanggang 99, 98, 97, 95. Pag bababa po, below 95 yan. The longer it goes below 95 and the further it is from 95, you will be in extreme danger of a possible heart attack.
So we don't know ano yung kung may standard po ang DOH dyan. They should have, di ba?
Yeah.
Alfredo, you want me to?
Yeah.
Alfredo Oredina, Wuhan lab is international lab budgeted mainly by Bill Gates, where Dr. Lieber was arrested due to money trace. And China government does not have control of lab. Correct. Regor Kagitla. Tuloy-tuloy lang mga sir hanggang matauhan sila. Tama. Jonathan Nepomuceno, Rizal and Marcos saved the world from elite by protecting humanity's gold. Paano na lang kung noong pa lang ay lahat na ito? Na Rome Biron, pera at katangahan ang kay Duque. Walang malasakit sa Pilipinas at mga Pilipino. Yung kay Duque po, taking out Duque will not solve the problem. Marami pong kailangan. Dapat complete overhaul po ng system.
Hindi lang po si Duque.
Hindi lang. Maraming sa likod niya na tahimik lang. Esteban Pagkatahan. Good evening, Sir Butch and Sir Itos. God bless you both. Salamat po. Doris Valdes. Magandang gabi, Sir Butch, Sir Itos from Singapore. Narong Biron. Malamang may utang na loob si Presidente kay Duque dahil sa election payback time. Regor Kagitla, sabi ni Duterte, pag daw may katiwalian sa cabinet niya, bulong lang daw, pro si Duterte, si Duque, pinagsisigawan na di pa niya madinig. Correct. Rose Realada, good evening po, sir. Sana po, if magpalitan si Duque, ay di-connected sa mafia. Anthony Luz, si Soros ang may-ari ng Smartman. Correct. Through National Endowment for Democracy, also Rappler and other, I'm sure if we dig deep enough, makikita natin yung network.
This mean
Nele Sistara, does this mean Duterte is really for the population because he is for vaccinating the Filipino people, starting from the healthy children to adults? As a mayor, he is not accused of killing young adults in Davao. Is he not accused of killing young adults in Davao, making us conclude same reason why he is blind and deaf to the real COVID effects of the people all over social media that mask wearing is deadly, that COVID is curable at the earliest stages, and it's regarded all inventions with regards to curing by some Filipino doctor scientists. Comment on. Is he really for the population?
Well, we have to magmasid po tayo. No? We will see by the actions and not by the words what Duterte really is. As of now, he's still our president, and if we go against him now, then who do we go for? So we're hoping that Duterte is continuously going to support the Filipino people. At But like I said, you're asking if Duterte is really for the population, we have to uh, uh, observe very well. Magmasid po tayo ng mahusay. And then watch the actions and not the words.
We cannot make a solid conclusion. So, Sunset Samson. Since sila po ay may gusto ng vaccine, sila po mauna ng mga officials kasi frontliner sila. If safe sa kanila after a month, sige, safe na rin sa mga tao.
Alam niyo po, yan po ang posisyon ng KDP officially. When the vaccine comes here, KDP has already said that we want all of the government officials, all in Malacanang, all in the cabinet, all in the Senate, all in the Congress, all in the governors, all in the mayors, to take the vaccine before it is imposed on the people.
Dapat may campaign tayo. Kayo muna.
Yan.
Di ba?
Kayo muna.
Randy Castillo, sa France, yellow din ang ginagamit ng mga release, yellow vest, right? But doesn't mean na it's supported by Soros. In fact, nakita po natin sa France, this is a revolt against the globalist policies because these are industrial. So, yung sinasabi natin color revolutions does not mean pag yellow, may ginagamit lang silang kulay and the objective is to topple the current government. Jose Aquino Jr., kaya nga ang mission nila bawasan population at ang target nila yung mga mahihirap.
Yan ang unang-una po tatamaan talaga, yung mga mahihirap. No? At yan talaga ang unang target. Tapos they go up the ladder. No? And gusto ko lang matatagalan tayo ng konti, pero alam nyo po dati, meron tao ang pangalan niya, Thomas Malthus. No? Malthus, M-A-L-T-H-U-S. Matagal na po ito itong si Thomas Malthus. Pero siya po ay isang tiga-Inglaterra. At ang sinabi niya noon, ang England daw babagsak sa 12 taon buhat nung nagsalita siya. At sabi niya, kanya babagsak daw ang England, no? Dahil ang pagdami ng pagkain ay hindi katumbas ng pagdami ng populasyon. Ang pagdami ng populasyon was geometric and the pagdami naman ng pagkain ay arithmetic. Kanya kinakailangan daw, sabi niya, pumasok ang gobyerno at ang gobyerno daw ang gagawin na patakaran, kailangan dikit-dikit ang mga bahay nila. Pag nagdikit-dikit ang mga bahay ng mga mamayan dati daw sa Inglaterra, tapos ang gagawin daw ng gobyerno, tatanggalin ang potable water saka sanitation. Pag tinanggal mo po yung sanitation tsaka tubig, papasok po ang disease, ang sakit. At maghahawaan daw po itong mga madidikit-dikit po ang bahay. Paghahawaan sila at mas marami po daw ang mga mamamatay. At pag dumami ang mga mamamatay, ang pagtaas ng populasyon hindi na kasing bilis noon kaysa ngayon pag nagawa nila yan. Isipin nyo po, sabi natin ang mahihirap ang una nilang tatargetin. Tingnan nyo po yung ating mga squatter area. Dikit-dikit ang mga bahay, wala po silang tubig, and wala po silang sanitation services. Ngayon pa lang po nakikita nyo na tawag dito, average lifespan ng mga tao dito sa mga squatter siguro ay 50 hanggang 60 anyos patay na yung tao. Pero dito sa labas ng mga squatter, umaabot po na average lifespan, umaabot po ng 75. Ibig sabihin, mas mabilis po mamatay itong mga mahihirap dahil wala po silang serbisyo sa tubig at sanitation. kalinisan. So the same concept is being applied before. Yan po si Thomas Malthus, 1800s pa lang po yan. 1810 yata. It is already 2020. But the same concept is being applied.
Anson said, Samson, buti po yung mga officials marami at malalaking insurance sa family if ever na matigok sila sa vaccine. Eh yung mga may hirap po, walang may iwan sa family nila pagpatay sa vaccine.
Tama.
Andy Casillo, same comment about yellow vests. Glenn Buan, these are realities, documented facts. Can't our government see through these? What are we to do? We're assuming that, Glenn, we're assuming that the government is actually wants to save lives. Matt, do ST. Duterte's hands are tied with the $7.7 billion owed by Philippine government from the conditions stipulated by this IMF, and I think so too. They borrowed that money based on emergency loan for Jonathan Nepomuceno, mukhang matagal na nilang alam na Rizal and Marcos ang masamang plano ng mga elite, kaya tinago nila si McCoy ang mga ginto. Okay. Naalala ko po nung 2016 election ay hinihikayat tayo ni Poe na humingi ng tulong sa Kano. Pero in the middle of her speech, napagtanto ko na mukhang gagawing battleground ng Pilipinas sa plano niya at habang may gera ay kukunin ng elite ang lahat ng ginto. Cesar Soberano, George Soros and the powers that be threaten with a wig. You have, quote, you have freedom of speech and of the press until you tell the truth. Free Assange. Give due process to Snowden and all the patriotic whistleblowers journalists. Himel Tanduyan Galzote, including Rothschild Rockefeller. Mar Maglasang. Baka isa lang target nila ay yung gold ni Marcos na makuha nila. Reggie Maloyon Alvenido, good evening po, Sir Butch, Sir Itos, good evening. Jonathan Nepomuceno, 100% agree po ako sa lahat ng sinasabi niyo, Sir Itos and Sir Butch. Sobrang powerful ang mga elite. Kaya nagsabi si President Duterte na isa pang Marcos ang kailangan ng Pilipinas. Francis Tapia Oblena, expose natin yan, Kaitos and Chairman Butch, di natin payagan ng mga globalist sa plano ng One World Government. Correct. Cannot go down without a fight. And I think yun po ang ginagawa ng mga tao around the world now. Lahat sila nagiging researchers and writers and journalists. Kasi yung mga mainstream, wala nang tiwala ang tao sa kanila. Evelyn Amurao, nakakaawa ang mga seniors sa Pilipinas. Sa ibang bansa, suportado nila ang mga seniors nila at nabubuhay na maayos. We Pinas, yung konting abulin ng gobyerno ng mga seniors, binubulsa pa ng mga mayors. Cathy Cruz, tama, immune system palakasin. Prime Bastre, mabuhay po kayo Sir Butch and Sir Itos. Cathy Cruz, mother of Roxanne Cruz. Ginagawa kasi tayong bobo ng mga hindi ginagamit ang sentido común. Ayusin ang healthcare system at hindi lang puro COVID. Nakaka-high blood yung mga namumunaw ang ng DOH at mga organized Western pharmacy and physicians. Ako talaga naman. Mami mo. Jonathan Nepomuceno, magiging normal lang po ang buhay natin kung mapapalayas sa Pilipinas ang mga globalist. Actually, Jonathan, kung mapalayas ng mga patriotiko around the world ang mga globalist, kanilang mga bansa, magiging maganda ang buhay.
Ito po sa atin, yung mga oligarko na may control ng mga public utilities. Yun po natin, doon natin umpisahin yan.
Jeremy Salvador, malakas ang pwersa ng globalist dito sa Pilipinas, kaya tayo na lang ang pinakamatagal sa lockdown. Correct. Vic Valparaiso, magandang gabi po Sir Butch and Sir Itos. Gabi. Nelda Santos, magandang broadcast nyo. Internet signal ng iba ang may problema, kaya masama ang signal sa kanila. TV, hopefully. You can always watch the replay po sa Facebook if you miss the live. Teresita Gaviola watching. Esteban Pagtakahan, parang si Yorme Isko lang ng Manila si Trump. Decades din ang dismantle. Erlinda Esmabe Garcia, good evening, God bless. Rina Marquez, thank you for your courage in exposing the truth. Napakalaking tulong para sa kaalaman ng madlang. Linda Marquez, Quezon Province. Thank you. Minerva Soto Kakal, very interesting lagi yung topic nyo, makes us aware of what might happen. Warmi Budol Hironelia. Sir Butch and Saritas, marami po akong natutunan sa programa nyo at may share ko ulit sa pamilya ko at friends. More power, thank you po. Yes, keep sharing po and keep researching. Ang dami pong pwedeng i-research. Lahat po tayo may kakayanan mag-research. Glenn Buwan, meron ba tayong Aliesa? Catholic ally sa Catholic Church who could help us in our endeavors? Wala.
As of now, wala po akong kakilala. Dito sa CBCP, wala po.
Jet Gonzalez, thank you so much for supporting the CDCPH group. Yes, and for helping exposing the truth about God. Bangon at Gising Pilipinas. Yes, good job po sa mga PH doctors for early treatment, flattening the fear. Yun po yung mga grupong they're fighting. And we should all join that fight for total change. Not just so that COVID, but total change in the way our healthcare is run. Emily Arganda Valencia, watching from Saudi.
Right.
That's it.
Well, tapos na po yung ating programa. Before we leave, I just wanted to give this last word. Kinakailangan po tayo magsama-sama dito at kailangan po tayong magsama-sama dito sa ating paglalaban sa mga gustong tumira ng ating buhay, ng ating kinabukasan. Ito pong mga taong ito ay mga kampo ng Satanas. At hindi po natin tatalunin kung tayo lang ang makikipaglaban. Kinakailangan po natin talagang humingi ng tulong sa ating Panginoon. Kung ano man ang ating, kung sino man ang sa inyong, kung kanino man kayo namamantalaya, whoever you are praying to, pray for the Filipino people, pray for our nation. And with that, we will gain the strength and the courage and determination to fight the enemies of our nation, our people. Hanggang dyan na lang po, magandang gabi po sa inyo at salamat po sa inyong pagsasama ngayon.